Welcome to the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, where it's time for podcast picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa. You'll get to hear about podcast recommendations for your podcast playlist, along with occasional interviews with other podcasters and video hosts. Now waiting for you is your host, Jim the Podcast Sherpa. He's just like you imagined. But don't worry. We'll make it up to you somehow.
This week on Podcast Picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa, guest Jeffrey Krentzman talks about the story behind his rapidly growing business and his hockey podcast, too. You know, we used to suspect that the Sherpa was a hockey player. After all, dental x-rays don't lie, right?
Welcome to the Sherpa's Podcast Picks. It's the podcast about, podcasts. And now, coming to you from Mount Podcastia, here's your host, who wonders what's on your podcast playlist, Jim the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpa-lution, and welcome to Podcast Picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa. And that would be me, this guy behind the mic right now, coming to you from Sherpa-lu Studios here in the Sherpa Chalet, high on top of Mount Podcastia, where I get to overlook millions and millions of podcasts that are out there. And I am so happy because I actually get to speak to a podcaster. I got to tell you something, folks. I really do the hunting for a lot of my guests now. And I've requested interviews from 5 different podcasters, and 4 of them did not respond. This is how tricky it's been lately. And I know some people, they don't have their shows anymore, so it's kind of hard to bring some back, if they're not doing it anymore. But I do have one, and he's someone new to the show. His name is Jeffrey Krentzman. He's an entrepreneur who owns a business called The Barbecue Cleaner. And there's a fascinating story behind that, and we got to talk about that. But not only that, Jeff also hosts a sports podcast that we're going to talk about. It involves hockey. It's got a great name, and, you probably see in the title what it is, but I think it's fantastic. And I had a really interesting conversation with him. I'm glad that we got to spend a little time together. So without any further ado, as I always say, here is my interview with Jeffrey Krentzman, the owner of The Barbecue Cleaner and host of the podcast called, we'll say it right now, Mind Your Pucking Business. Hello there, rebels. We are in the entrepreneur room of the Sherpa Chalet. My guest today is a guy named Jeff Krentzman. He's coming to us from the lovely state of New Jersey. And not only is he an entrepreneur, and this is a really fascinating business, by the way. We're going to get into that. He's also the host of a podcast that we will also talk about. Yes, we finally have a podcaster on the show. All the other ones have been hiding. Jeff came out of hiding. He wasn't afraid. He's here. He's on Zoom. Jeff, welcome to the show.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing very well. And I'm glad that I have a fellow podcaster to speak to today. I've been talking to a lot of authors lately and actors, and I'm like, is there anybody out there who has a podcast who wants to tell me about their podcast? And we will get to that because I think your podcast has probably what I would consider in the top 10 of the best names of a podcast. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, The Barbecue Cleaner, this is your business. You are the founder and creator of this.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually the 19th year of it, which is crazy. It makes me feel old because the first year seems like it was 2 years ago at most. But yes, this is the 19th year of The Barbecue Cleaner.
So how did this come about? I mean, it sounds like a very basic idea. Well, like how come nobody else thought of this?
Yeah, it's strange. And, the origin story, we didn't really think of it either. So we don't even get credit. We kind of backed our way into it. We started out trying to replicate a business that we were in contact with in the United Kingdom that were cleaning ovens. And in the UK, I don't know if you've ever been there, it's always rainy. Right. It's not very sunny. They're just not a grilling culture or society like we are.
Sure.
So we had brought this concept over to the States from across the pond, really with the ambition and only goal. The only thing we ever thought of was to try and clean ovens like these guys were doing. And we did it for a couple months. And then I know you're in the Northeast like me, and you know that once you get those first 50-degree days in March, people get spring fever and they want to come out of their house. And people would ask us when we were there to clean their oven, "Hey, while you're here, could you clean the grill?" And we said, we don't offer that service. We're an oven cleaning company." Until it got to so many people asking about it, we kind of said, all right, like what modifications do we need to make to this system that would be able to clean grills? And thankfully, the modifications that we had to make were so minimal, and we ran an ad. And literally 19 years later, it hasn't stopped. I mean, we're busy all the time. This is all we do. So, yeah, it's been quite a ride.
You don't do ovens anymore. Everything just kind of shifted over to the barbecues.
We do, but 97% of our business are now grills. The ovens are popular in December and January when I don't want to be outside anyway, cooking grill, so it kind of works well from a
Right.
seasonality point of view. But no, we still offer the service of cleaning ovens.
So when you're doing grills, I mean, what do you guys have like a special treatment of the barbecue grill, or there's special tools that you use? What's involved here?
Yeah, so the company that I mentioned in the UK, it's called Ovenu. We use their system. So they have a system that is very good. It delivers a 99.9% customer satisfaction level, which is critical because that's where you get repeat business, right? And
Sure.
referrals. It's efficient in the fact that it's done in an hour and a half to 2 hours, which you can't be there for 8 hours. You're not getting paid by the hour. You're getting paid by the job, so you got to be efficient.
Right.
And then the other thing is it's a one-man job. You're not paying a second person labor or anything like that. So it's really the whole system as a whole that does the job to the level that it needs to be done. So it's special cleaners that they have, it's special tools, it's a whole system. And it works obviously very, very well.
Yeah. Now, do you want to tell everybody how many franchises that you've got throughout the United States?
Yeah, the 313th will open up in a couple weeks. Actually, we'll open up at the end of July.
That's unbelievable. I mean, did you expect anything to grow like on something like on this premise?
No, I think if I look back 20 or 19 years ago now, did I think it would get to the level it's at? Probably not. I mean, I thought the concept was cool,
Mhm.
and I thought I could see it going well. Did I think it would go this well in 19 years? Honestly, probably not. It's hard to answer. I can't put myself in my mindset 19 years ago. But
I understand.
yeah, but I don't know. It probably would have been hard for me to see it kind of where it's gotten to.
And I guess people go to your barbecue cleaner website if they want to join in on your company, right?
Correct. Yeah. So you can go on the website if you want to. If you're looking to start a business and be an entrepreneur, one of those 313 locations I just mentioned, but you can also go on that website if you're one of the tens of thousands of clients who get your grill cleaned, if you're looking to get your grill cleaning. So you can go on the website. It's a dual purpose website. It can try and find the entrepreneurial spirit of people,
Mhm.
but it can also just be a simple homeowner looking to get their grill in their backyard cleaned.
I was just so fascinated reading about your business because you took really the most basic rule of entrepreneurship where you found a need and you created a service for it. And even though it was an evolution from from the UK, you worked it here for where it's obviously gonna go a lot easier, especially I imagine like down south where barbecuing and grilling is even bigger because of you got the nicer weather a little bit longer throughout the year. Is that a hot spot for you?
Yeah, so there's a seasonality component, right? For those people down there, they really have a 12-year business. Up here in the Northeast, I'd say we're busy most years, 10 months of the year, 10 and a half months.
Mhm.
Now, I don't mind that month and a half. I think it's good. I think like it's maybe part of my favorite time of the year where we can kind of recharge and the pace slows down a little bit. But in those other markets, in the South, Florida, Arizona, California, I mean, this is a 12-month a year business, right? I mean, what do they go down to? 60 degrees is the coldest it ever gets. It's always
Right.
real.
And there are, of course, people who are just barbecue fanatics that they don't care what the weather is outside. They'll use their grill for for whatever.
Yeah. I've met so many people in the 19 years that I didn't realize how some people are so passionate about grilling and grilling and you're right. Like I have clients every year that say to me, the first thing that I do when it snows is I shovel the path to the grill. I hear it all the time. I mean, I could write a book about the amount of people that have told me that. But you're right. I mean, there are just barbecue aficionados out there.
Yeah, and I mean, and you always see like those the grilling competitions and everything like that that have really become even gradually more and more popular each year. So, do you guys have like a corporate sponsorship where like have you hooked up with any of these companies that sponsor the competitions?
No, no, you know what? We're really more our target clientele in terms of the is in terms of a grill clean, someone who wants it cleaned is a homeowner, not so much the guy that's the traveling in the ribs competition every weekend.
Right.
Because those people, I don't know if you've ever seen their competitions. They're not, and I don't mean this as a negative thing. I think it's a fact. They're not the most clean people in the world, and they like to leave the stuff in the grill because that's flavor, and I don't blame them.
Mhm.
But we're looking for that homeowner in the backyard that has the built-in outdoor grill. It's the same people that are going to pay someone to mow their lawn, plow their driveway, whatever. They're not going to sit out there for 8 hours and have to figure out how to clean their grill. They'll gladly pay someone once or twice a year to do it.
Right. That was what I kind of figured that like your target customers were like people that they just weren't really sure how to do it. They do a little bit, but they know that they want to use their grill, and they want it in good shape for every season.
Yep, correct.
Do you think that it'll grow beyond like what you're doing now? Or you think you're gonna incorporate any other services, or you kind of like you're just staying the course?
I think it's a lot of staying the course. It's kind of like the saying, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. If it's going well, I definitely try to take a look every so often at
Mhm.
things overall and see where things can be improved because things are never perfect. Like I spend a lot of time in the November, December months looking at kind of the overall thing to see what we can do better. And
Right.
there's always things that we change. I don't think we're just on autopilot here. But I think it's a lot of probably staying the course because thankfully what we have is working for so many people.
Yeah, and I guess, like you said, because it's primarily a one-person job too, you're not dealing really with teams of people. You're dealing with this person in this state and this person in this state who are essentially using the same equipment, and the probably the problems are either going to be pretty similar, right?
Yes, yeah. So at this stage, after 19 years, it's not often I get a question that I haven't heard before, right? There's
Right.
similarities across. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that, we try to keep almost everything in the brand consistent. I think that's critical, right? So
Sure.
the way that it's done in Arizona with our first location ever, which is still up and running 16 years later, is the exact same way that they're doing it right in South Carolina, which will open next month. So we try to keep it consistent across the board and across the country. And you're right. I think it leads to um, common questions, if you will, and common there's not a lot of problems around here, but usually we're not hit with something we haven't seen before. And as I say that, I just jinxed it now. Tomorrow morning, I'm sure I'm getting something. But yes,
So uniformity after a while becomes your friend in a sense.
correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now, apart from running this business, you also have a sports podcast. And could you please tell everybody? I didn't want to take it away from you. This is probably one of the best names of a podcast I've ever heard, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So, well, I'll give you a little background to lead into it.
Sure.
So the original goal was to incorporate hockey along with small business.
Mhm.
And I am not, anyone who knows me will tell you, I am not the most creative individual on the planet at all. I was not blessed with that gene, but somehow I came up with the name for the podcast, at one day, and that is Mind Your Pucking Business.
I love it. It's just, and it's funny because usually they say, "Oh, when you title a podcast, there's keywords," but you hear that title, you know what it's about. There's no doubt in anybody's mind.
Yeah. Now we've gone away though, so we're in our sixth season now. Actually, we're wrapping up the sixth season. The seventh season will start in the fall.
Mhm.
We've shifted through it's kind of changed a little bit. Like we're still super hockey focused. We're super New York Ranger focused for sure. That's really the bread and butter. But we've kind of gotten away from the small business stuff because what it seems our audience wants is more hockey, more hockey, more Rangers, more Rangers, more Rangers. So we give
Mhm.
that to them. And I don't have the amount of time that we did in the beginning when we really didn't know what we were doing. And I still think we don't know what we're doing every week. But we've kind of got away, but the name obviously is going to be there forever because yes, people tell us all the time that they love the name.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point, believe it or not, about saying like that you really don't know what you're doing every week. I think when you do know and it becomes too repetitious with that kind of with podcasting, it feels like you're phoning it in, and I think the listener after a while, it doesn't sound as authentic. You probably bring that passion every week because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what are we going to talk about now?
Yeah, that's a great point. So we tape tomorrow morning actually, and it's our first show in 7 weeks. We have never had a 7 week gap between shows in 7 years. And because what I didn't want to do, right? The season ended, unfortunately for the Rangers, that ended sooner than it should have. I don't want to sit there and talk about stuff to stay. If there's not a lot of Ranger stuff going on, what am I going to talk about? You want me to tell you what I got for lunch at Chick-fil-A? Like people aren't interested in that. So you're right. I think that there is definitely an aspect because every week during the season, there's a million things going on. It keeps it fresh. It keeps you engaged. If we were talking about the same exact topic over and over and over, it would get, pretty repetitious and people don't want to hear the same thing 37 times. And I don't want to talk about the same thing 37 times.
Right. And even, because there are a lot of sports centered podcasts too. And, you want to stand out as well.
Yeah.
So, that uniqueness always has to be there or else, like I said, you don't want your listeners to lose interest. And, do you get do you do phone-ins or do people send you any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, so we get hit with questions a lot. So the one thing one thing that has happened and probably was not expected is on the Instagram platform. I mean, we're getting questions every day. And when the season's going on, it's a lot. And when they're in the playoffs, which unfortunately they were not this year, it is excessive.
Mhm.
So it's become more time consuming. And I'm not saying that in a necessarily negative thing. But it's become a lot more time consuming than I thought it would. It's not just so what people don't know is it is not just the 1 hour a week that you see an actual podcast being taped.
Mhm.
The Instagram thing is literally 365 days a year. There are no off days for that. Even in the off season, it's nonstop.
Can I ask how many followers you have on Instagram?
Yeah, I think we're approaching 10,000 at the
Yeah.
moment. But you know what we've done, and it was one of the smarter moves we've made, and it's helped us grown, and it's grown beyond those followers, is we've done a lot of collabs with a bunch of other Ranger pages that have a higher follower count than us. And that's given us some really good exposure. So our
Mhm.
stuff now comes up. Like the other day, ironically, I was prepping for the show tomorrow, and I was trying to look up a stat, and I typed it in, and we came up. It was our video of a clip from us. So, I think in the last 3 months, we've had something like 590,000 views and engagements. I mean, they've done well at kind of branding it out there beyond necessarily just the follower count.
Like what you said with 10,000 followers, you got 10,000 opinions that are going to go with it. So
Correct.
that I guess kind of feeds into itself as a 365-day-a-year business.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like whatever the producers do, like we'll do a show and then they will decide, hey, from that 45-minute show we just did, what can we clip and make an Instagram clip of a minute of, right?
Mhm.
And really the whole goal, I mean, I don't think this is a secret, is that you want to put something out there that people are going to engage with. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but tomorrow, for example, I can tell you already, the topic is, we're going to do a show, but what's going to get clipped is me saying that Chris Kreider, who's on the Rangers, shouldn't be a Ranger next year and they should move him in the offseason. And that gets done because you're right. 9,000 out of those 9,000 people, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 are going to strongly disagree with me and they'll put it in there. And that's kind of how you kind of grow your reach and your following.
Okay. Now, so being, I'm assuming you're a lifelong Ranger fan. Is that safe to
Correct.
presume? Okay. Who's the greatest all-time Ranger?
Well, for me, it's got to be Mark Messier, right? He led the Rangers to the Cup, and the only Cup I've ever seen. Hopefully, I'll see another one someday. But I would say it's Mark Messier.
If people hear this interview,
Yeah.
you may get a couple of responses
Correct.
on that opinion.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm setting you up for a couple of rabbit answers.
I've learned with doing this that because you're right, everyone has all different opinions. No matter what I say, no matter, and also regardless of how passionate I am about what I'm saying, if I really strongly believe it or if I believe it a little bit,
Mhm.
there's always going to be the other side. And it's not a bad thing, right? I mean,
Right.
opinions are opinions. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean the other person's wrong.
Sure.
But you just kind of take it and you know that whatever you say and whatever was put out there, there's going to be the counter argument. And people will want to say that.
Mhm.
And that's fine.
Yeah. And I know, I don't get the chance to watch sports too often, but I know even like when you watch ESPN, any sports show that's on there or even on the radio or even on podcasts, you guys have to be ready for a debate. It can't just be my way or the highway, or else people are just going to be like, no, they don't want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Even when we have like the live audience on Instagram Live or YouTube Live, the people when they write in, majority of the time, they're not writing in to tell you they agree with you, right?
Mhm.
If you watch, the majority of them are, they want to tell you, hey, I don't agree with what you just said.
Right.
And here's why. So people want the debate and then they want to be, I mean, I think that's what kind of makes podcasting cool is depending on the platforms that they use, you can listen and be part of that debate versus if I'm watching PTI on ESPN and I disagree with something Michael Wilbon or Tony Kornheiser are saying, they're not going to hear me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm some guy watching TV, in my house in New Jersey. Podcasting's a little bit different in that respect.
Yeah. So your listeners don't have to worry about yelling at the screen. They'll have a real live person to
Correct.
to bring their point to. So I know you said you don't listen to many podcasts, so I won't put you on the spot with that. But we do have a portion of the show, and it is called Shameless Self-Promotion. And this is where we want to let everybody out there know where they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So on the barbecue cleaner side of things, you had mentioned the website earlier, www.thebbqcleaner.com, all one word. Super informative, whether you're out there looking to get your real clean, you're looking to start a business, that website will get you on the right path to what you need. For the podcasting stuff, Mind Your Fucking Business, you can download the shows on Spotify or Apple Podcast. You can also watch it live or on repeat with cameras on YouTube. And it is also on Instagram. The Instagram page is probably our most active anything is the Instagram page of the show. Mind Your Fucking Business, all one word.
You can join in on the debate, folks.
Yes,
if you
for
feel
sure.
you need to. Jeffrey Krentzman, Mind Your Fucking Business, barbecue cleaner. This is a busy man all year long, and I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jim. Great being with you. Great show. I'll talk to you soon.
It looks like the Sherpa is no longer locked in the bathroom at the Sherpa Chalet, so we can finally get back to the show.
Thanks a lot for listening, and a special thanks to Jeffrey Krentzman for coming on the show. Make sure you check out his podcast, Mind Your Fucking Business. I love it. I love it. Or even visit his website, The Barbecue Cleaner, if you would like to have your barbecue cleaned, or even your oven, or even if you'd like to be part of his ever-expanding business. This is really fascinating stuff, wasn't it? I think this is the first time I've ever actually mentioned this on a podcast. So that's pretty cool. So we will be back next week. I will be on the hunt for more podcasters to interview, to throw into the mix. I also have some potential Sherpa Screening Room guests to come up in the near future as well. I've been working on a lot of stuff, Rebels. I will do what I can for you, just to have you guys listen. So very much appreciate you guys spending a little time here. And don't forget, on Saturdays, we will have Sherpa Selects, where I get to play some of my favorite episodes from the first 7 seasons of the show, and I get to remaster them and make them sound a little bit prettier, So just like my voice is so lovely. I know. So you've been listening to those, right? Right? Just nod your head and we won't have any problems. Okay. But in the meantime, I will see you next week. And until then, I say to you, Viva la Sherpa-lution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa's Podcast Picks. The podcast is now over. Please disperse and tell everyone about us. As long as they don't put us back in jail. Viva la Sherpa-lution!